to Books, Booze, and Murder. I'm Anna.
I'm Alexa.
And we're two friends who love to read and have a fascination with true crime.
And who can't multitask.
We are 25 seconds into this and we're already on the struggle bus.
I can't. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm done now. Not really, but I'm done. Fucking cheers.
Cheers. There we go. Interesting.
Yes, it is.
Okay. If you don't know what's going on, Alexa made her drink. And we were like, fuck it. We're just going to do cheers and drink and not tell anyone what's happening.
We said cheers. That obviously means we're going to cheers and drink. But we haven't introduced the drink yet, and that's fine.
Well, here, we're talking about it. What is this drink? Because
So,
you straight up told me I've never made this before. We'll see how this goes.
this was a very last minute decision of, I don't know what I'm making today, which is why I haven't posted anything about what our drink is. Yeah. This is a spiced homemade hot buttered rum.
There you go.
So this was quite literally like 2:30. I was looking for recipes and I said, yep, I have all of those. Done.
I mean, to be fair, November is your birth month. So technically this is kind of your birthday episode. So I'm like, she's just going to make whatever she wants to make and I'm here for it.
I really was going to like just go with my tried and true dark and stormy because that's the thing I just always keep going back to. But then I'm like, it's fucking boring, Alexa. Do better. And this is actually pretty darn good.
Yeah.
This is a nice, warm, hot drink. So basically what I had to do, I had to mix ingredients. So I had to mix butter. I use salted butter because unsalted butter is
Gross.
for losers. Brown sugar, vanilla extract, cinnamon, ground nutmeg, ground cloves, and fine sea salt. So you have to mix all of those together first, which is what I was doing when you got here. Where it's like I just put it in the food processor and ground it all up and it's almost like a paste. And then you take 2 tablespoons of that mixture, plop it in there with 2 ounces of dark rum and about 3/4 cup of hot water.
Oh, cool.
And I mean, if we really wanted to get fancy, we could put a cinnamon stick in there, but I didn't have cinnamon sticks.
Cinnamon sticks can be expensive.
Yes.
And I'm
not about that.
No. Well, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So how have you been? I know I saw you a week ago for our, oh my God, guys, we had our book club a week ago today as of our recording, and Alexa's brother's girlfriend got trashed over
hilarious.
one drink.
She's also
tiny.
115 pounds, soaking wet maybe, and she's only 21.
Yeah. Just barely. Well, she's going to be turning 22 next month, right?
Beginning of December. Oh, December 2nd, I think.
Okay.
I'm nearly positive. So very soon.
Yeah, very soon. So she got trashed. That was funny. We made sure she sobered up before she left.
She's very giggly. She called my brother and had him come pick her up like the good girl that she is. It's just so funny.
She was hysterical. So how have things been since probably since we recorded, but since a week ago? Because we didn't really get to talk.
No, we did not. So, well, I'm finally scheduled for surgery.
Yeah.
I'm going in 2 days before Christmas.
And for those that don't know what's going on?
My right knee is swollen up like a balloon. I don't know what's wrong with it, so I don't know how long I'll be in recovery until after I get out of surgery. And you need to repeat that 4 more times for me because anesthesia and me don't mix well.
That's when you have someone write it down for you, too.
Oh, I think my mom's going to be bringing me and Greg's going to be taking care of me the next 2 days.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my husband's having surgery a week after you.
Yes, he is. And he's having similar thing done.
Knee stuff. Mm-hmm. Got knee surgery right before, within 6 months before our wedding in 2021, and then re-injured it this summer. So, yay for knee surgery.
Knees suck.
No.
Knees suck hard.
So you're getting surgery done.
I'm getting surgery done. Kindergartners are wild.
But soccer season is over.
Soccer season is over now. I have a little bit of time to recuperate from that, which is really nice.
You sound better. Last month you sounded rough.
I'm so permanently exhausted all the time. I feel it's like a marathon sprint, not a marathon, not a sprint. It is a marathon sprint. I feel.
I do not have that energy.
Oh God, dude, I wish there were days where I could just sit and read my book, especially days like today where it is
icky,
rainy and cold, and I just want to be like, no, I'm gonna ignore everyone, please and thank you.
Yeah. So I saw that you finished an audiobook. Was there anything else you were able to get your nose into or ears on? I've determined that the only way I read books effectively now is by listening to them on audiobook. And again, we've had the conversation where I am so very thankful for Libro FM. It is so nice. But then it's like I also have to remember, okay, so I get something on Libby. I have this many days to read it. And then Libro, I can just say I don't have to worry about it at all. That's good.
Which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Because it just stays there. But, so I'm currently... I mean, what book did I even read?
So you listened to Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, which I've heard a lot of really good things about.
That was a fun one. And that was actually a really quick read, too. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it was only maybe 12 hours of listening. Like, all things considered, that's a pretty short book.
Yeah.
So, that was fun, though. That was a lot of fun to listen to. And that was just headphones in, go.
Yeah.
Done. Perfect. Now I'm listening to Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. That's the other Barbara Kingsolver book I read was The Poisonwood Bible. And I think I talked to you about it, and I was just like, yes. I cannot get into this. This is hard, but I still finished it.
Yeah.
I'm the person where if I start a book, I'm going to finish it. Mm-hmm. As much as it's going to kill me and pain me, I'm going to finish it. So I started listening to that one. And then in the middle of listening to that one, and that's about a kid who has lost his dad, has lost his mom. He's in foster care, and just all the horrible things that have happened to him there. But then it's like he gets into a good home, and people take care of him / they kind of let him do whatever he needs to do, kind of.
Oh, wow.
It's very interesting, but I'm only maybe halfway into this book.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens, because obviously it's not stopping there.
Yeah.
And I think Barbara Kingsolver writes some really tragic stories. So we'll see.
I mean, you love Jodi Picoult, too.
She's different, though. She makes you feel good the entire way, and then crushes your heart at the end. Whereas Barbara Kingsolver kind of like she just kind of like just makes it. It's like she climbs into the deep depths of human despair.
Yeah,
and takes you on a journey through it. So it's like, I have a really good life. Mm. This is awful. This actually happens. This sucks.
Yeah.
But then halfway through it, my loan through Libby, A Court This Cruel and Lovely was able to rent. So I'm like, I'm going to listen to that one now, because I've said no thank you for the past 3 months and been like, deliver it to me in 14 days, deliver to me in 21 days, deliver to me in however many days. I'm just like, I just need to read this. I just need to read it. And then, of course, I'm reading the second book in the Butcher and Blackbird series. I'm almost done with it, too. What about you, though? Enough about me.
Well, you always find these books that I've never even heard of. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how? Yeah, so after... I don't even remember what book we were reading when we were last recording. So obviously I read our book for this month. Mm-hmm. And then our library system, as you know, was doing a passport thing. Right. Where you go around, visit all the different libraries, show them your little booklet and they stamp it. And at one of the local libraries, they had The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. And I was like, I need it. So I borrowed that. That was your typical, like, things are very interesting. Like, going between the perspective of this guy in the past and then modern day with this girl. And you're like, how are they connected? And then you think you know.
And then you don't.
Yes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Shocker. What is new?
Yeah, right. Thanks, Frida.
I do want to come back to Frida McFadden after I, like, give this rundown. Don't let me forget that.
I will not let you forget it.
And then another book club I'm part of, the November read was Firekeeper's Daughter.
You've raved about that so much.
I did have one person tell me that they hated it.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I loved it so much. Native American, goes undercover with the FBI. Like, oh my gosh, I really loved it. And then someone told me that there's a sequel. And I was like, I need to read that. And I returned a library book today, and I was looking to see if they had any books by this author, and they don't. So I'm going to have to look through the library system.
Got it.
And then I've been challenged. Like, I'm in charge of picking a book for our February book club. And I was like, okay, like, I want something really, like, romantic and fun, but not super heavy. And that was a really big challenge. So I read The Truth According to Ember, which was a candidate. That was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but it was a new author, like, their debut book.
Oh, okay.
So overall, like, I thought it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. But then I just finished The 7-Year Slip.
I've heard a lot of good things about that book.
It was unlike anything I'd ever heard of, like, time hopping all through one apartment. And it was so good. Like, I'm not going to give away too much because it's a candidate for stuff. But I really enjoyed The 7-Year Slip. And then now I'm reading The Frozen River, I believe, by Ariel Law.
Ooh.
And I own it. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about, like, returning any books or anything like that. So.
Back to Frida.
Yeah, so back to Frida. Did you see... there's two things, actually, in the last week.
Probably not then.
Okay, so The Housemaid is becoming a movie.
You sent me that yet? No.
I sent you the other thing.
The book, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think I heard it's becoming a movie. I do think I heard that somewhere in the realms of my brain.
So the guy that plays Atlas, which we still need to watch it, but the guy who played Atlas in It Ends With Us, he's playing Andrew.
Ooh.
And then Amanda Seyfried is playing
the housemaid? No, the crazy lady. The mom. Nina.
Yes.
Oh, I love her.
And then there's another woman.
I can't wait to see how she goes crazy.
Yeah. And then there's another woman who's playing Millie. I'm so excited.
That's exciting.
And then part 2 with Frida is this past week. She announced, yesterday I think it was. You're going to laugh at this. I saw she posted on Instagram that she wrote a novella, which is what happens between books 2 and 3, because there was that time hop with what happens in Millie's life.
Yeah, that was like eight or 9 years.
Yeah. Yep. And I was like, maybe even longer, because I think her daughter was like, what?
She a 5th grader? She was a 5th grader, so she must have been 10 or 11.
Yeah. So I was like, shit, now I have to buy that book. And I literally had a coworker say yesterday, you need to stop buying books. And immediately I go, no.
I support your choice.
I knew you would.
I 100% support that choice, for sure.
Yeah. So I've been definitely reading a lot, but part of it I did to myself because of caseload, like between this and between another book club and what I want to read on my own. But I'm down to my last 3 books of the year. And then I start all over.
Yup.
So it's just been...
Dude, I don't know how you do it. There's never enough hours in the day.
It's literally read in the morning as I'm drinking my coffee and then read at night before
you
bed.
see, I have no time in the morning. I have no fucking time in the morning.
See, I'm a zombie. I need to give myself a lot of time just to wake up, and that's what I've just been doing is, in the morning. But then again, like, you've been really good about working out in the morning.
No, I have not.
Well, you were really good about it.
I was going to say, not since this beast.
Yeah, not since the knee. Yeah, so, like, you were really good about working out. In the morning.
That was what woke me up for sure.
Oh no. Yeah. So either way, it's just
fine.
And also, it's like a lot of these books I was borrowing from the library, so there was that deadline. But just trying to read as much as I can to escape the reality of living in the troll hole. It's great.
Well, so it's amazing to me, too, because I love to read. I love the stories I read. But a lot of people will say I'm staying up until anywhere between midnight and 3 a.m. to read a book. Where I'm like, dude, I am nodding off as I'm reading, and I'm just like, it's not that I don't like the book, I'm just exhausted.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I do to wind down, and when I am starting to nod off, I put it away. I'm not one of those that stays up until the early morning hours. Like, 7 years slip for sure. The first night, actually no, technically both nights I was up until 11:30 reading. And my husband, the second night, he goes, go to bed. I go, no.
Don't tell me what to do.
I have 2 pages left. No.
That's fair.
So, I mean, I can't do that.
That is fair.
And both nights I was like, I'll be fine. In the morning, I'm like, why did I do this to myself? I can't do that.
No.
Okay. So.
Let's jump into this book summary.
Yes. What do we have this month again?
This was November 9th by Colleen Hoover.
And November 9 is your birthday.
It is my birthday! But, it's come, it's gone, it's past. People make a bigger deal about my birthday than I do, and it's fine. I move on. So, this book, I thought, had a really interesting plot to it. We start with Fallon, who is a voice actor, but used to be a real, I hate saying real actress, but she used to be like an on-screen actress, I should say. But after she was burned in a fire, she stopped acting. We begin with her and her bigwig father having a meal in a restaurant together, and he keeps telling her that she should not move to New York City and try acting there because of her disfigurement. Sounds like a pompous ass to me, but might just be a dad trying to protect his daughter, but he's kind of a dick. He's portrayed as a dick in the book.
He's a dick.
Yes, he is. However, she's already made up her mind, bought a ticket, and this is her last day in LA, November 9th. As she is being beaten down by her father, another person in the restaurant hears this conversation and comes to sit by Fallon, pretending to be her boyfriend, since her dad keeps telling her that no one will like her because of her face and all about the looks that she does not have. This man is Ben. With Ben defending Fallon and berating her father just a little bit, her father leaves and leaves them alone. They start talking, and Ben makes her feel comfortable enough to be invited back to her apartment. Ben helps Fallon finish packing, plan to have dinner together, and they end up falling asleep with little time for Fallon to get to the airport. So they end up not going to dinner, and as Fallon is walking Ben out, Fallon has her first kiss, and it escalates. Not to sex, because there's no time for that. Ben and Fallon start talking and devise a plan to meet every year on this exact date in the restaurant spot. They do not exchange phone numbers. They block each other on social media so they can't cheat. And they make it impossible to contact each other until they see each other again in 1 year's time. Why would anyone agree to this? This also happens to be the anniversary date of the fire that Fallon was injured in. So she was trying to change this date into something other than what it is for her. So they agree, but before they part ways, they spend the day together. Of course, in their day together, Fallon reveals all of her insecurities, and Ben gives her homework for the next time they meet in 1 year. Ben wants Fallon to audition for Broadway, while Fallon insists that Ben write a romantic comedy novel about him and Fallon. They agree for the next 5 years they will meet on this date for 1 day and hold each other accountable. The reason for 5 years stems from Fallon's mother, who told Fallon to not fall in love until she was 23, because 23 years old have their lives together. Hilarious! And right now Fallon's 18.
Yeah.
There are no strings attached, no expectations type of relationship. In addition, Fallon gives Ben romance novels to read before next year, along with the name of the restaurant they are to meet at and the date Fallon has left. Ben tells her that she needs to have people laugh at her once a week. She should go on 5 dates and kiss 2 of the guys. So that's the 1st November. The 2nd November 9th, we dive deeper into Ben, and we find out that November 9th is a traumatic date for him, and he started writing more of a book about truth than fiction. Ben is at the restaurant waiting for Fallon, who is almost 2 hours late, but Fallon figured out a way to contact him through a place down the street, and we find out that she couldn't find the name of the restaurant because it changed hands. Her flight was delayed, and when she finally found the correct number, she couldn't get through. They agree to just meet at Ben's house with the few hours that she has left of her November 9th date. So they go and talk about the homework assignments they gave each other. Fallon went on a date with one guy and kissed him, but one guy was all. Ben did start writing, but he is making her wait 4 more years before reading it when it's finished. They start talking books and what makes a great book-worthy kiss. Fallon tells Ben that she is doing stuff in the community theater in New York. Fallon also talks about her date and her discomfort about putting herself out there for someone to see all of her scars on the left side of her body. And Ben makes her feel beautiful, seen, alive, and Ben is so good to Fallon. He keeps lifting her up and not letting her beat herself down. They start getting frisky in his bed again. Then Jordan, Ben's brother's fiance, accidentally walks in on them. We find out that Kyle, Ben's brother, and Ben share the house they inherited after their mom passed, but they also have an older brother who travels a lot. This is also the weekend before Kyle and Jordan get married, so she is stressed, but it's weird when Kyle arrives and is unwelcoming towards Fallon and then punches Ben for an unknown reason. We'll find that out later.
Yep.
Ben and Fallon take a walk to the beach and continue to talk about their lives. Ben is double majoring at UCLA and is writing November 9, the title of this book. Ben then decides he needs a tattoo that evening. Ben brings her to the airport and they decide to meet in New York City next year. Ben then buys a plane ticket to give Fallon homework for next year. Very dramatic. But he really just wanted to give her a super cute note that encouraged her to call her father, since she hasn't talked to him since the previous year in the restaurant. 3rd November 9th. We start with Fallon telling us that she went on 4 dates, auditions, 4 callbacks, and a role in an off-Broadway play, but she misses the community theater where she could be helpful, and people wanted her advice. We also come to realize that Ben is a Dylan Thomas fan, and he died in New York City on November 9th. But as she is waiting, a waitress comes up to her with a phone, and Ben is on the other line telling her that he is still in LA because his brother Kyle died. This is also while Jordan is very pregnant with Kyle's child, but Fallon makes a surprise appearance for Ben at his house, and Ben is so relieved to have her there. He insists that Fallon stay with him tonight because at this point, Fallon and Ben have done just about everything but sleep together. They also tell Ben's family and friends about their strange arrangement, and they realize that Ben truly does love Fallon. And of course, Ian, Ben's other brother, has to say something and make it awkward. Fallon showers and wears one of Ben's t-shirts, almost loses her virginity to Ben, but Ben wants to be her first, last, and every day after, which is, of course, just so sickeningly adorable. They, of course, end up having sex, and Ben wants to exchange numbers before they leave, but Ben does not want to leave. Talks about selling his house and moving to New York to be with Fallon and abandon his book even after he has already signed with an agent. Jordan does not want to move back with her mom, but she also does not want to be an inconvenience. But Ben hears all these things that Jordan is telling Fallon at 4 a.m. So, while Ben is putting Jordan back to bed, Fallon calls a cab and says goodbye without giving her number to Ben, refusing to be the reason that Ben leaves Jordan and her son, giving up his book deal. 4th November 9th. Fallon has moved back to LA and has made a career change as an acting coach, not an actor. She has gone to the same restaurant where it all started, and she is waiting for Ben in their booth that they met in. Ben does eventually show up with his nephew in tow. At first, Fallon thinks nothing of it, but as the conversation progresses, it comes out that Ben and Jordan stayed in the house, share a room, and are a couple. Ben tries to explain, but Fallon does not want to hear it. It is then that she tells Ben she moved back, and he wrestles with his emotions, but Fallon won't compete with Jordan and says that she will not return the following November 9th. 5th November 9th. Fallon's roommate Amber insists that Fallon goes out with her and her boyfriend and invite Theodore, even though Amber doesn't like him. I loved this scene too. This was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny.
Theodore. So she goes out, and lo and behold, Ben is at the club claiming to be writing a paper about the probability of soulmates. Ben also confesses to waiting for his soulmate in the restaurant for 4 hours. He is able to get Fallon alone and tells her that him and Jordan are no longer together and wants Fallon to come home with him. They end up in a storage room together, fooling around, but then it comes out that Glenn, Amber's boyfriend, told Ben where to meet them to find Fallon. They end up getting thrown out of the club when Ben punches Theodore, as does Glenn, and Amber yells at him for being a dick. Glenn and Ben seem to be getting along well, and Fallon ends up going home with Ben. They iron out their past. Ben is still part of his nephew's life, just without being with Jordan, and Fallon accepts that and wants to be a part of Ben's life. So they go back to Fallon's apartment, make love, and start the rest of their lives. When she wakes up the next day, she finds Ben's manuscript of his story that he is writing about them. She starts reading it and finds out Ben is the one who set the fire that disfigured her and almost killed her many years ago. She thinks that this writing is mean and cruel, but she then remembers that there were some things that were true. Fallon then starts to read the manuscript from the beginning and finds this to be true. Ben tries to apologize, but Fallon is already out the door and wanting to be away from Ben. He insists that she read the rest of the book, but she will not. She just wants to leave. The 6th, November 9th. This year, Fallon hopes to sleep through November 9th, not leave her house, and allow herself only this day to think about the fire and Ben. We find out she filed a restraining order last year after she left Ben's apartment, and she never told anyone what happened. Just after midnight on November 9th, she gets a package on her doorstep with a note from Ben. The package is his manuscript that's telling their story. She refuses to read it, goes to bed, and wakes up to her mom letting herself in and reading the manuscript that Ben left. Such a mom thing to do.
Yeah.
Fallon is getting ready to throw it away, but her mother tells her that this is Ben's way to show his scars to her. She does eventually concede and read the manuscript, and we find out that Ben was the one who set the fire because his mother had died, and he thought she had died and blamed Fallon's father for her death because he thought they were in a relationship. So when Ben followed Fallon's father home and set fire to his house, not intending to cause that much harm, the fire became out of control, and Ben had no idea that Fallon was inside. So flashback, excuse me. I don't know why I wrote forward. That was dumb.
Words, they're hard.
Ben has been struggling with self-sabotage for many years now. So this is all the way back to before the 1st November 9th.
Yep.
For many years now, and wanted to finally right his wrong, which is how he ended up getting to know Fallon, wanting to make her life better, and ended up falling in love. As it is November 9th, Ben is waiting for Fallon at the same restaurant they met in 5 years prior. He is truly hoping that Fallon can forgive him. In true love story fashion, as Ben is leaving the restaurant close to midnight, Fallon meets him in the parking lot, explains that she got a tattoo of 2 things that mean a lot to her, just like Ben did that first year they reunited on the beach. I totally forgot what he did too. Like, I forgot the 2 things he combined. Anyway, I'm almost done. She forgives him and they live happily ever after. The end!
Look at you go.
I thought it was really interesting the way that they did the tattoos, though, because of course, like, Ben was a big baby when he was getting his tattoo, and he got 2 things that meant a lot to him and combined them. I don't remember what they were though. And then Fallon did the same exact thing where it was like a music note or a music staff.
Was it a semicolon?
I don't remember.
It's been a while since I read this book.
Regardless, though. I had to re-rent it from the library and skim through it at parts because I was like, I don't remember. But like, I thought that was a really cool idea.
I mean, so overall, this book kept me captivated. Mm-hmm. But some of their personalities, hi Luke, no, don't chew on the table, Luke. Let's not do that. Their personalities, maybe it's because they were so young, but like their dramatics part of it, I was like, what the fuck? Like, stop being stupid.
18-year-olds.
Yeah, stop being stupid. Get your head out of your ass. Like, what the fuck?
I thought that was fun, though. It's like, no, we're not going to talk to each other for a whole year, and we're just going to meet at this spot on this day, and I thought that was fun.
I think by the 3rd, November 9th, I was like, I would have been over it. Like, if I was in Fallon's position and I really liked Ben, I would have been like, fuck it. Like, here's my phone number. Because I got to the point where I'm like, give him your goddamn phone number. Like, just fucking do it. Yeah, exactly.
Or just social media or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, would you move back to LA? It's like...
Yeah. But also, like, I had to put myself in that position. And when I was 18 and in college, like, I had a romance.
Sure.
Where I was a fucking idiot.
Yes,
like,
we all did.
I was a fucking dumbass.
Yes.
Like, I was not okay, like, mentally. Like, that was when I gained, like, the freshman 25. Mm-hmm. Just, it was bad. Mm-hmm. So, like, part of it I could understand, but I'm also like, grow the fuck up.
I know. Us 30, 31-year-olds are like,
yeah.
grow up!
Yeah.
Ow, dude.
I think it was the music notes and the word poetic.
There you go.
Yes.
That's what it was for Fallon.
Yep. So when I heard, though, like, his side of the story and how he thought that her dad was the one that, like, Well, his mom died by suicide.
Yes, his mom died by suicide, which is awful and terrible.
Yeah. But, like, learning that he thought that Fallon's dad broke his mom's heart, like, I was like, oh, shit. And then it got crazy, and he didn't realize Fallon was in there. But then learning, like, the suicide note, I think I cried during that.
It was awful.
I was like, holy shit, like, she has cancer.
Yeah.
And this is, like, the best way out. What?
Yeah.
But then also knowing that, like, the police took the letter before Ben could read it.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm like, nope, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't do that to a child.
No. I think the level of patience required in what their setup was, I grew impatient.
Fair.
I was like, like hearing that she, like, when they were supposed to meet up in New York City when his brother died.
Oh, God.
Like, how excited
broke
she was.
my heart.
Yeah. I was like, oh, shit.
Oh.
And then
sucked.
I felt like my emotions were tugged every single way. Like, how she found out, again, like, as you had mentioned in your summary, like, how she found out Ben was dating Jordan and how that made her feel.
Sucked.
Yeah. It just yanked my
bad.
emotions everywhere. So, like, I think the concept is definitely very unique, but I would have given up on it fairly quickly and have been like, okay, let's see how things go. And how stubborn she was about it. I was like, come on!
She was stubborn.
But I did like the scene where we learned that Glenn told Ben where to be. And then they did like a fist bump or whatever.
Oh my gosh. They were like, they had the most hardcore bromance I've ever seen of anyone.
Yeah.
That whole scene, like, I did not do it justice in this, but it was like that entire scene was hilarious. Talking about his whale pants.
Oh my God.
I grew up on the Cape. No, you didn't!
What was it? Wait, was it Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket? Somewhere around there.
I thought it was just somewhere on the Cape.
Maybe it was Cape.
I don't know. Regardless, it's like, no, you didn't. You did not grow up there. You adopted it.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
And no one liked Theodore.
No one cares. Theodore.
Yeah.
Didn't the roommate call him like Teddy and she was like Theodore?
Yeah.
Fucking Theodore. God, he sucked.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
He was not great.
No, he was awful.
But I think I really appreciate, like, yeah, there might have been a guilt factor with Ben over Fallon's scars. But at the same time, the way he was like, no, you're still beautiful to me, that was so crucial for her to kind of, like, branch out a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'll give him credit for that for sure.
Well, yeah, because she has her dad around her that's always telling her, you're not pretty, you're not pretty, you're not pretty.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere in the acting world, you're not pretty.
Well, then also hearing that, like, he had a girlfriend who said she was pregnant and she really wasn't. Like, ugh.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part. That was oof.
But I also really liked that Ben encouraged Fallon to reach out to her dad.
Yes, I think that was very important. And of course, she was cordial with her father again by the end.
Yeah. So I really liked the fact that he seemed a little bit human. And then, like, her mom. Yeah, her mom, when the manuscript was delivered to Fallon's apartment and she was crying and she's like, you have to read this. Like, ugh. So, I mean, was this my favorite Colleen Hoover book? I don't know if I could say that.
No, I don't think it was mine either, but this was another one of those, like, just fun reads.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think the concept was fine. The personalities really bugged me after a while. Not gonna lie.
They're all being stupid.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was like, stop it, stop it, stop it. Ugh!
Yup. Yes. Yup.
But am I glad I at least read it? Absolutely. Like, yeah. And then, yeah. I was getting really fucking pissed off, though, in the beginning when that whole conversation was happening in the diner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just...
Like, that's wildly inappropriate to have in a public setting.
But I also was like... The whole aspect of if something happens and you really have to work hard to track someone down to say, I'm not coming, something happened. Like,
seriously, you're putting that much work into it.
Yeah.
You must want that.
I think that was part of my patience where I was like, like, agreed, just you're going to text on that day. Like, if something happens.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you would fly, she flew all the way across the country for not even one day. It was like hours.
Mm-hmm.
A number of hours. And then she either flew out that morning, flew back that evening. It's like.
Didn't even bring a bag with her.
No. Like, had her carry on because it's like, I'm not sleeping there.
Yeah.
I don't even have a toothbrush.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a long-ass time to be on a plane.
That's a long-ass time to be on a plane.
So, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was a cute romance. Like, I'm not going to lie, really. I like endings where it works out, in my opinion, the way that it should.
That's fair. That is fair.
So, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that was an interesting read for sure.
Yes, it was.
Did you hear the news that Anne Hathaway is signed on to, I haven't read it yet, but Verity by Colleen Hoover?
I think I have heard that.
Yeah, so we're going to have to add that to our list at some point.
I own that one.
I do too. It's on my, I need to read this shelf.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was our November book.
Yeah! That's fun.
It was. Not the best, but
It's okay.
you're ready to turn the page over to true crime?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we are sticking with the fire theme.
Oh.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Let me get a drink of this. I'm not gonna lie. Remember when I had a slip up probably in September?
A slip up?
Where my words were all over the place?
Yes.
Was it before we were yours?
Yes.
Was that September?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
This drink is strong and I've consumed almost all of it. So we shall see how this turns out. Okay. It's the early morning hours of February 16th, 1987. Which, February 16th is the date that Eric and I, my husband, got together. Fun fact.
That's fun.
Yeah. But this was in Everett, Washington. Mm-hmm. So it was 25 miles north of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And a police officer notices a glow in the area of the local community college. Mm-hmm. As you'd expect, they immediately report to the area where they see a column of smoke and flames coming up from the roof of the library.
Ooh.
The fire department is called in, and by the time they arrive, it's considered an out-of-control inferno.
Wow.
Like the heroes they are, they enter to battle the flames. Within 10 to 15 minutes of their entry, one of the firefighters noticed that conditions were getting bad. Knowing that smoke inhalation kills people all the time, the crew has Scott air packs on. And if you're like me, you went, huh? Mm-hmm, what the fuck is that? Mm-hmm. So that's the tanks with compressed fresh air that scuba divers use.
Okay.
Even though they're supposed to hold up for 30 minutes, in a working fire, 15 minutes is the most accurate time frame for that use. One of the firefighters attempted to draw on their tank before realizing they'd run out.
Oh, no.
Fortunately, another firefighter was near him and they offered him their mask. At that point, the firefighter knew he had to get out of the building, so he found the hose and used it as a guide to do so. By the time this firefighter and others left the building, they were struggling. We're talking crawling. And sadly, not all the firefighters would make it out alive. Mm-hmm. After 45 minutes of searching, the missing firefighter was found dead, face up in a puddle of water under a table. This was the same firefighter who shared his mask with his colleague. Mm. So this month, I will be telling you about the murder of Gary Parks.
Ooh!
So, to be clear, he wasn't shot, he wasn't stabbed, he wasn't poisoned like our last month. But the circumstances behind this particular fire are probably not what you may think, hence me picking this.
Okie dokie then. Let's hear it then.
So I wasn't able to find much about his childhood, but what I could find is that he spent 4 years in the Air Force in Germany before attending Everett Community College to earn a fire science degree. During his personal time, he was very active with downhill skiing, water skiing, and volleyball. He was also known to be a jokester. He clearly had a love of the fire department, though, as he volunteered to call bingo as a fundraiser, and he loved it. The fire department wasn't the only love of his life, though. In 1962, he met his wife, Kathy, in Seattle. She was attending school at the University of Washington when school was... hello, grammar is a thing. University of Washington. And when school was out, she got a job at House of Values. So House of Values is a department store that was eventually acquired by Kmart in the 1980s. And as we know, when she walked in, she saw Gary, and the rest was history. What attracted her most to him was his jokes and the way he could keep you laughing. My assumption is that shortly after they met, they got engaged, as he asked her to marry him in a bowling alley. And on April 20th, 1963, so literally a year later, they were married.
Wow.
And the way he proposed was prime. He told her, "If you don't have anything better to do you want to get married?"
Because that's the words that every woman wants to hear. Yup.
After they tied the knot, they settled down in Everett. Initially, Gary started working in retail before he took the test and became a firefighter. On November 4th, 1968, he accepted the job. At this point, the couple had 2 daughters, Erin and Jennifer. Everyone would describe him as a fantastic father who would play with not only his daughters, but with the neighborhood kids as well. We're talking he'd teach everyone how to water ski and snorkel. Like,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was a cool dude. He'd also take them to swap meets and drive-in movies. And I had no idea what a swap meet was. I was like, huh?
I was going to say, I've heard that term. I don't know if I actually know what it is, though.
So it is a gathering at which enthusiasts or collectors trade or exchange items of common interest. And I was like, oh, okay, that's more simple.
That makes so much sense.
And that's heaven for us for books. So I was like, okay.
Yes.
And so, fun fact, one source that I read said Gary and Kathy also apparently took in 2 foster children. So again, this was only one source, but it was testimony given in court. So I was like, okay. So knowing how good of a guy Gary was, I'm choosing to believe it. So let's add one more hobby to the list. Kathy saved up money to buy a sailboat, which she did indeed get. And Gary loved to go sailing with her. While he was on the water, his all-time favorite thing to do was fish. Jennifer went on record, so one of the daughters, to say that he wasn't great at fishing, but he loved it, and, quote, "Mom used to catch more fish than him."
That's great. Bet that pissed him off.
I mean, I don't know if it pissed him off, per se. No one really said that.
No.
But, like, oysters, like,
but
that
that's
was
funny.
That's
funny.
He was in his happy place. So going back to Gary's work as a firefighter, I think it's important to mention that he was typically the engine driver.
Okay.
My assumption was that on that particular night, the blaze was so massive that he wanted to help his fellow men.
Sure.
After all, over 100 firefighters were on scene. Yeah, this was a big deal. I'm like, what the fuck did the library do to you? So what created a massive problem during this particular fire was that the crew was cut off by a wall of flames that had flashed up behind them, blocking their exit. At that point, the crew was well inside the library and had been running low on air. The decision was made earlier to break policy and remain inside while sending a couple firefighters back to retrieve fresh air tanks. I was like, how the hell did this happen? But knowing that this decision was made, I was like, okay. Now, I did wonder about the sprinkler system, and I stumbled upon the Washington State Legislature website, and if I read it correctly, sprinkler systems weren't mandated until December of 2015.
Wow.
And I hope I'm wrong, but
no kidding.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. I was like, what? But from forums that I found, it sounds like these systems are a case-by-case issue. So it's like determining if it's necessary. Like, I looked around my place of employment, And I honestly haven't seen a lot of sprinklers.
Wow.
So it's just something to think about and look around at and be like,
I don't think the school has sprinklers.
Yeah.
Like the heat detecting ones. I don't think the school has them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, case by case, people have to talk about it in meetings. So, because I was like, wait, if they had a sprinkler system, like, wouldn't it help keep this shit under control?
Right.
So, that was my idea. So, it took a fire truck spraying thousands of gallons of water for almost an hour to deem it safe for a small search party to enter the building. After 2 rounds of searching, he was found, and his formal cause of death was smoke inhalation. So, of course, an investigation ensued, and the ATF, so alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, was called in. And this is when I introduced to you Don Dodsworth, an ATF supervisory special agent and certified fire inspector. According to Don, investigators approach the scene in a neutral manner so they can get a holistic picture of the damage of the structure. They look for the types of items that have survived versus what were damaged or destroyed. In their starting point, they have to determine the location of the area of origin. The initial processing of the scene determined, and I was like, you know what? Like, this source, I just got to quote it because I can't quote it any better.
That's fair.
So, quote, an exterior inspection revealed a concentrated area of damage that included a single-story library area, herein known as the library check-in, check-out area.
Oh.
To which was adjacent to the northwest corner of the atrium and the south end of the gallery, end quote. So, to put in simple terms, investigators found many papers, books, and academic materials strewn all over the floor behind the check-in, check-out area, and this was not normal for an area like that.
Right.
So therefore, investigators determined this to be an intentionally set fire by human hands.
Ooh.
To be even more specific, the fire had started in the book drop, which you could only access from inside the building.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, where does murder come into play here?
Right.
In Washington state, if you set a fire or if you're the cause of the fire and a firefighter dies in
that's murder.
First degree murder. Yeah, they're not fucking around.
No, they are not. So good for them.
Yeah. So 3 days after Gary's death, his funeral was held near where Gary and Kathy moored their sailboat. And obviously a lot of people attended. He was a loved member of the community.
Right.
So going back to the investigation, 2 security guards were on duty that night. One of them was named Cameron, and he said he'd noticed an open window in the cafeteria, which was part of the building, but hadn't put 2 and 2 together until after the fact. This obviously became a concern, as this was most likely how someone had gotten in. The other security guard, named Fred, was on duty in the guard shack. He went on the news to say he'd heard something before seeing flames. He immediately ran out, not knowing what to do other than call 911. Here is where the problem lies with that. Investigators didn't see a call to the dispatch center or 911 at this time.
Oh.
It had been known that security guards in the past have caused fires and then called them in so they could be seen as the hero.
Right.
So, of course, this didn't look good for him.
Nope.
When he was being questioned, he made an admission. He was asleep during the morning of the fire. He lied because he didn't want to get in trouble for not recognizing that the building was indeed on fire.
That's...
Yeah. So they spent quite a bit of time investigating him, really digging in, but it was apparent that he didn't have a motive and he was cleared.
Right.
Unfortunately, the case does go cold until a little bit more than 2 years later, in April of 1989.
Wow.
At this time, rumors were going around about 3 street kids. During questioning, one of the kids said they had information, but they were not at the fire and he'd had an astral projection.
Okay.
In his vision, he hovered above the scene where he'd seen a fair-haired blonde boy among a pile of books, setting a fire with a wooden matchstick. The books and papers would catch on fire before his vision ended. And as wild as this projection was, one detail stood out. The blonde, fair-haired young man with a wooden matchstick matched the description of one of this kid's friends. Let's meet Elmer. What a
Elmer
name.
like Elmer's glue.
I was thinking the same thing.
Good gracious. Who names their child Elmer?
I have no idea.
Oh, that's so... Anywho.
So he's a troubled 12-year-old that was not a stranger to the police.
Yeah, I'd be troubled too if my name was Elmer.
Knowing a criminal background was involved, we're talking graffiti in the northern part of town and an active drug user. 12 years old.
Wow.
Drug user.
I was going to say, what kind of drugs are we talking right now?
I don't know.
Okay, that's bad.
Investigators turned their attention to him.
Yep.
They were able to get a statement where he said he wasn't involved and then polygraphed, which he passed. There was no sign of deception, therefore, detectives decided to look somewhere else. So again, the case went cold. And like polygraphs, yeah, they can be helpful, but they don't stand up in court. Like
no, because you can easily pass a polygraph.
Bingo. I also want to point out that according to court papers, several people told the authorities that Elmer had admitted to setting the blaze.
Oh.
So this was another reason why he was considered a suspect. And did I mention he was 10 when he was first convicted of a felony?
Wow.
It was a burglary.
Where the hell are his parents?
So I
We'll get into that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I can't speak for the dad, but I can speak for the mom.
Okay.
5 years later, between August of 1992 and February of 1993, there were many fires happening in the Seattle metro area. 28 miles south of Everett, it's clear there's a serial arsonist on the loose. One case included, get ready for this, 3 elderly residents who passed away in a nursing home fire in northern Seattle.
Oh, no.
And according to a witness, they'd seen a very, hi, Luke, a very neatly dressed man.
That was my bad. I shouldn't take it.
So hey, Luke,
Hey.
I'm in the middle of telling a story.
Come here.
So according to a witness, they'd seen a very neatly dressed man who was clean shaven. With this information, a sketch and profile were done and distributed to the public. A brother and sister saw this picture and knew that it looked like their brother, Paul Keller. Have you ever heard of Paul Keller? I'm going to have to someday do a case on him.
Oh, God.
They're able to do some detective work by retrieving his gas receipts, and they noticed the gas stations he went to were close to where the fires were set. As a result, the family turned him in to the Everett PD. During that questioning, he confessed to over 70 fires.
Wow.
Yeah. Paul was not innocent as he had access to police scanners and he'd listened to activities going on within Everett and the surrounding areas. So he was just a fucking fire stalker. In December of 1993, he was sentenced to 75 years in prison for the murder of the 3 elderly residents from the retirement home.
Good for them.
And understandably, Gary's family at this point were convinced that Paul was the one in charge of the library fire. Of course, investigators wanted to make sure they had evidence to prove it. Some witnesses came forward saying Paul lived near the college, and on the night of the fire, he was on video at the site when a film crew was present. Because there is footage of that fire.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the case against Paul was starting to crumble. His fires were started on the exterior of structures, not inside.
Okay.
Therefore, this fire didn't fit his pattern.
Right.
Of course, we're not going to forget about the video and where Paul lived. It was determined through speaking with Paul's landlord that Paul didn't move into the apartment until after the fire. He goes to an apartment. Upon reviewing the video, Paul was never seen.
Okay.
And then one rumor was that he had been disguised as an ATF agent with a blue hard hat on, but this was also debunked. So taking all of this into consideration, Paul was ruled out.
Okay.
In 2016, 29 years after the murder, a new investigator has taken over the case. And one of them, new investigators, one of them was a firefighter, so they knew what it was like to go into a building in the same conditions. They started from the beginning, focusing on Elmer and Paul. Paul agreed to speak with them and was adamant that this was not one of his fires. Elmer was nowhere to be seen.
Oh.
In April of 2017, the detectives got a break.
Wow.
At this point, Elmer was 41 with no... Yeah, I know, right? With no known address, and he was being booked into the jail, standing at the counter when he was approached by detectives. He immediately knew it was about the college fire. He was like, is this about the fire? And they're like, yeah. He did agree to talk as long as they could pick up a cheeseburger on the way, which they did.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. However, in the interview room, it became clear that Elmer was not in any kind of condition to be questioned, as he was under the influence of something.
Oh,
AKA,
shocking.
he kept falling asleep, so the interview was stopped.
Oh, that sounds like fentanyl.
Something.
It sounds like a depressant.
Yeah. 2 days after he was sent back to jail, the investigators asked to talk to him again. As a rapport was built through another cheeseburger and a cigarette. Real winner. And Elmer agreed to a polygraph, and this time he failed.
Interesting.
Soon after an interview started, he got horizontal in his chair. And this is a sign where he was about to give up. I was like, what is horizontal? Oh, okay. I'm not a trained detective. He put himself on scene as a lookout, and he'd climbed in through a window/hatch. When he felt like he was getting blamed for what happened, everything fell apart and the interview was done. So they were like, oh, okay, can you give us more? Nope. He was moved to a different room with someone else questioning him, where he continued to put himself on the scene and more pressure was applied. He admitted that he put fuel to the fire, still minimizing what happened, before eventually taking accountability. When asked how the fire started, he said, quote, a wooden kitchen match.
Wow.
So this motherfucker was involved.
Wow.
When asked why he started the fire, he said, quote, to cover up evidence there in the school trying to steal stuff.
Oh.
Of course, they wanted more information, and a guilt trip was in order. A picture of Gary from his memorial was brought in and placed in front of Elmer. Elmer broke down and said, quote, tell his daughters that I'm sorry. I started the fire, and I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. End quote. One day after Elmer's confession, on April 28th, 2017, he recanted everything.
Of course he did.
He claimed to not remember a single thing.
Oh, great.
So in May
great.
Yeah, I know, right? So in May of 2017, law enforcement sat down with Kathy, Aaron, and Jennifer to tell them what happened. 3 12-year-old boys started the fire to cover up a burglary. They knew who started the fire, but couldn't share names because the investigation hadn't been fully completed yet. To make things harder, the family was told they couldn't share information they'd been told. So they had to sit on this information quietly. 2019. Detectives presented their case to the prosecutor and were told that all the evidence would have to stand up to modern-day work as if the fire had just happened.
Wow.
This is when Dawn, remember?
Yes, Dawn. Great Dawn.
Yeah, was brought in.
Yep.
In February 11th, 2020, like right before the world shut down,
Quite literally.
Dawn was asked to look at the fire with respect to how the scene was processed in 1987. Her first approach was to see if it was electrical. Second was to see if there had been any type of oily rags spontaneously combusting. Third, were there any types of candles left burning? Like, that could be a possibility. Next, was this an intentionally set fire? When speaking with the librarians, they told her that it was cold that night and nobody would have left a window open. So finally, she studied Elmer's confession, and it fit the scene, quote, almost like a glove. So June 15th, 2020. Dawn's report is complete. Her conclusion was a deliberate act by human hands, which as a result is an intentionally set fire. Her report was given to the police department and the prosecution so they could continue with their criminal case. March 25th. Like, this shit just takes forever.
Yes.
March 25th, 2021. Unexpected news arrived as the trial was gearing up. Elmer was going to accept a plea agreement, agreeing to go in front of the judge and plead guilty. He was therefore released on his own recognizance before he had to come back for sentencing.
That's a bad idea.
His plea meant he'd most likely serve less than 3 years.
Excuse me?
Yep.
I'm sorry, for a felony murder?
Yep.
Excuse me?
So his family obviously was pissed too. So here's the reality. I know, right? The crime was committed when Elmer was 12 years old. Therefore, this is fucking stupid. He was being charged based on his age at the time of the crime.
Oh! I'm sorry, if you're doing drugs and you're burglarizing and you've already had a felony on your record from when you were 10, you're making adult choices, buddy.
Yep. May 7th, 2021. Sentencing day. Over 100 firefighters showed up, both retired and active, from all over the country.
That's cool.
Elmer was nowhere to be seen.
Like I said, bad idea.
Yeah. His attorney was pissed as he had no idea where his client was. Like,
Shocking.
he was pacing. Yeah, exactly. After an hour or so, the judge issued a warrant for Elmer for murder, and the U.S. Marshals got to work. Soon, they got a tip. Elmer was 1 hour south. Shocker, getting high. 4 days later...
Makes sense.
Yeah. 4 days later, in front of the judge tore into him. At the hearing, he stood at the podium. Yeah. It's my favorite.
Oh, it's great.
He fucked himself over with what he did.
Yes.
So he stood at the podium sobbing, apologizing to the family.
Nope.
To those in the courtroom, it appeared he had emotionally gone back to his 12-year-old self.
Probably.
The family asked for the harshest sentence before the judge changed Elmer's terms. Originally, as we know, he was going to get about 2.5 years, but due to his shenanigans, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison as well as community custody, which I didn't know what that meant, but it's essentially parole for the rest of his life.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. The judge made it known that he had an obligation to consider Elmer's age at the time of the crime, but he also had to consider his lengthy criminal record and the safety of the community. We're talking over 80 felonies and misdemeanors as a juvie and adult.
I'm sorry. If you have that many on your record, leave them in there.
Yep.
I'm sorry. That might be harsh, but fucking leave them in there.
He can't get his shit together. Drugs took over his life. So if he had committed the crime as an adult, he would have been in prison for between 34 and 45 years.
Leave him in there.
Yeah. Investigators aren't convinced that he was alone, but they do admit that he was loyal and would keep what he knew to himself. So he was going to take the brunt of everything. At the end of the trial, Kathy spotted a woman sitting alone. It was Elmer's mother. Yeah, I know, right? I was like, ah! Kathy knew she had to touch her, and the two women embraced. According to Kathy's interview on Cold Case Files, his mom hadn't had an easy life and never received the help that she needed. Like the true, mature woman she is, Kathy was angry at Elmer for putting his mother through all that he had done.
Sure.
They hugged for about 10 minutes, and that's how Kathy was able to forgive. Gary was known as a great husband and father who was devoted to his community. The college went on to name a building after him and commissioned a bronze structure of his jacket and helmet on a bench. Erin, his daughter, went on to spearhead a scholarship in Gary's name that aims to support those who are interested in getting into fire science. And if you're wondering, the infamous fire damage totaled near 10 million. This is what I have to say. What did the library ever do to you, Elmer? Dumbass. And that is the story.
Wow. That's a rough one.
Of Gary Parks.
Oh.
And like...
Poor Gary. He didn't deserve that.
Absolutely not.
He didn't deserve that.
No. And like one of my favorite pictures is he's like the balancing the spoon on his nose with a funny face.
Yeah.
Like that's what he was known for, and Cold Case Files kept showing his that picture.
Yeah.
So
Aww.
yeah.
Man.
I know, right?
It's always gonna happen to the best people. And that's why I say stay fucking cranky. That's my thought process there. Jeez.
So I just
that sucked.
Yeah.
That kind of sucked. But oh well.
But I'm really happy that his daughters really stepped up to the plate, especially Aaron, to establish that scholarship.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So no one ever forgets about him.
Right.
So, but that's also, like, the other thing was, like, Elmer's mom, knowing that she needed help for decades and never got it.
Yeah. I'd almost like to know more of that backstory. Me being nosy, and it's like nature versus nurture. What did mom actually do? Not saying it's mom's fault, but it's like, what services could she ask for? What services was she denied? Mm-hmm. How was she denied? Where the fuck is the father?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What?
So it was just reassuring that, like, Kathy was able to find forgiveness because she knew that, like, it was Elmer's actions. Like, he wasn't, as my assumption is, he wasn't being fully supported by his mom. His mom was like, what are you doing? Or, like, he was off doing whatever and she had no control over him. And that's kind of what I'm choosing. But,
that sucks.
Yeah, so that's that.
That's that. That's that on that.
Yeah. So do we want to move on? What's our December? Wait, we're in the double digits. This is episode 10.
This is
Look
episode
at us.
10. This is pretty cool.
Look at us. We're in the double digits.
I know.
So what is our December book?
It's another book that's going to rip your heart apart.
Fuck. Oh, I haven't read it yet.
Okay, so this is a historical fiction. This is called Firefly Lane.
Yes, Kristen Hanna.
Yes, by Kristen Hanna. Of course, it's Kristen Hanna. She rips you apart. So this is... oh, yeah, duh. I have to give you the...
Yeah, well, I was looking it up for you.
Well, let me see if I have it on my bookshelf, because, I forget things.
So,
I think I have it.
Part of it was... for our listeners, I went to our local book sale and got a few books that were their 2 copies, and I was like, perfect, we can use this for the podcast. And this was one of those. There are 2 books, but also it's like there's Firefly Lane, like the series on Netflix.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. That's pretty cool. So this is Firefly Lane. In the turbulent summer of 1974, Kate Malarkey has accepted her place at the bottom of the 8th grade social food chain. Then, to her amazement, the coolest girl in the world moves in across the street and wants to be her friend. Tully Hart seems to have it all: beauty, brains, ambition. On the surface, they are so opposite as 2 people can be. Kate doomed to be forever uncool with a loving family who mortifies her at every turn. Tully, steeped in glamour and mystery, but with a secret that is destroying her. They make a pact to be best friends forever. By summer's end, they've become Tully and Kate, inseparable. Literally one word, Tully and Kate. So begins Kristen Hanna's magnificent new novel, spanning more than 3 decades and playing out across the ever-changing face of the Pacific Northwest. Firefly Lane is the poignant, powerful story of 2 women and the friendship that becomes the bulkhead of their lives. For 30 years, Tully and Kate buoy each other through life, weathering the storms of friendship, jealousy, anger, hurt, resentment. They think they've survived it all until a single act of betrayal tears them apart and puts their courage and friendship to the ultimate test.
That sounds so good, but also, like, my heart's gonna get crushed.
Seriously, it's awful. And of course, I accidentally read the second book before I read this one, so I know exactly what happens. And then the second book is just as tragic.
Wait, there's a second book?
Yeah!
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm screwed.
It basically follows the story after this book ends, like almost to a T.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I ignore him. I'm going to ignore him.
Luke just came up the stairs with a towel.
Towels are his favorite to rip apart. That's why he has the toys that you can't rip apart.
Yep. Wow. Well, Firefly Lane, December. We will most likely be recording in, like, the middle, closer to Christmas at this point with my reading.
Yeah, seriously. I understand completely.
Cool. Well, if people eventually want to hear better quality, where can they subscribe to?
Well, so we are on YouTube and Spotify at Books, Booze, Murder. We have an Instagram at Books, Booze, Murder. And we have a TikTok, as like how I like to call it, at Books, Booze, Murder Pod. All one word, all lowercase, except for YouTube and Spotify. It's capitalized. I think you can still find it, though. Yeah. I know he's ripping the blanket. I don't care.
Yeah, so definitely, if you enjoyed at least the content, we know audio isn't top notch. We're independently doing this for fun. But if you would like to subscribe, we would appreciate it. But I guess until next time, bye-bye.
Toodles!